Time we switch pod. The boys are
Yes,
back.
sir. Yes, sir.
How are you, Chris?
Yeah,
Reaching us
Connors.
from an undisclosed location.
Undisclosed location. But look, we're in the semis. So me, I'm good, eh? How you doing, bro?
Good myself, good myself. The Dan Carters of
hmm
podcasting here to give
Yeah.
you our opinions, our flagrant takes, and yeah, feel free to give us your opinions in the comment section below. And yeah, church announcements, you can find us here, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the socials. So yeah,
Yeah.
let's connect, let's talk.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
let's start with your boys. I know it
Let's
was
start
the
with the
last
drama,
game.
Connors.
Or let's start with news actually rather. Or not
Yeah,
news.
yeah.
Let's start with opinions. Because
Okay.
it seems to be quite a week for rugby values. You know,
Mm. Hey.
the Jaden Hendrikse situation, for me, I'll come out and say, obviously, we know Jaden Hendrikse. We
Yeah.
know what he's about. I love it personally.
Yes.
When I played, I was that type of a player. Not every, and this is also the thing is not everybody is that type of player. Not everybody
Yes.
has to do those things. Not everybody wants to do those things. But there are guys
Yeah.
that do, and there
Yeah. And
should
the
be
guys,
room for players that do.
thank you. They should be, look, for me, quarters, the thing is this. It's basically, it's almost like, that spoiled kid in school, you know, when when they get beat, when they
Yeah,
lose into other guys that are better than them. But this one, because his dad has got money, then he gets angry.
yeah,
That's almost like what it's like with the reaction to all of this, because everybody knows Jaden Hendrikse is the shithouse master of
yeah,
note for, especially in recent times in South African rugby. He's one of those guys that sticks out as, he will get under opposition skin. And for it to blow up the way that it did, it doesn't, for me, it was a non-issue, honestly
yeah,
speaking, because fact of the matter is the guy got the kick, he got the kick over, and he's, as a matter of fact, if you actually look back at the start of those penalty shootouts, the Munster guys are the ones trying to, trying to get under the Sharks guy's skin. You saw even who's that Conor Murray was trying to get under David's skin as well. So that's the thing. Don't throw stones if you live in a glass house.
My
You
thing is, I
understand?
mean, I'm not gonna take that angle. I'm not gonna take that angle of like they also did it, whatever, because
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
during the game, you could see they were struggling at scrum time. There were also
Mm.
things that they were doing at scrum time to buy time. There were also like extended injuries from
Yes.
their players. But I'm not gonna
Thank you.
take that angle and say like, well, you did it, so we did it. My thing is
Yeah.
that we did it, so what?
Yeah. So
That's
what?
my thing is that it's like there's people that will do anything to win, and you just have to deal with that. Cause
Yes.
and I like that style of play. My thing is also this is not Tom and Park where they keep quiet. They shh.
For the kicker.
Now, yeah,
Come
no,
on.
in South Africa, we boo you at the
Yeah.
stadium when it's time to kick. You must deal with a
Yeah.
hostile environment. You
Yeah.
can't, just because you do that in your house doesn't mean that we must do this in our house.
Yeah, exactly. Don't come tell us about values. You know what I mean? Like it's honestly, I'm sick of these. There's a guy, I just forget his name there on the socials. He calls it the rugby prefix. I'm tired of the rugby
Yeah,
prefix. Always the values, this, that, and the other. But when it's other players, again, and it just highlights the double standard that exists. And honestly speaking, they must just keep quiet.
I
Because
don't even
number
care.
one,
I don't even care for the double standard. I saw people likening
yeah.
it to when Peter O'Mahony said you're just a shit
A
Richie
shit Richie
McCaw.
McCord.
Like, to be honest, that's not even like a like
It's
an
not even, bro.
equal. It's not even an equal
It's not even.
comparison. But I'm not even in the game of comparisons. It's like deal with it, deal with
Yes.
it. So what? He did this. He's a wind-up merchant. That's what he does.
Yeah. And if you take the bait, it's on you. You know what
Yes.
I mean? If you take the bait, it's on you. And Crowley took the bait, hook, line, and sinker. That guy chowed that bait, and he couldn't help it anymore. He lost.
Yeah.
He's the one that actually lost it. If we talk about rugby values, it's that guy where we could lip read. Kids were watching that thing, my man. You think no, no, no. You don't talk about rugby values. Kids were watching that thing, and if
Yeah.
any kid that knows what can lip read, we all know what he was saying. You know what I mean? We all know what you'll say. Compare that to a wink. You understand?
Yeah.
Compare that to real legit. For me, I saw cramp. You know how
No,
it played out is
yeah.
how it played out.
If we're being honest, he did have a cramp,
Oh,
but also
but
he milked it. And then he played up towards it and he wound him up. So
yeah,
that's so two things can be true at the same time. He did have cramp, he did wind the guy up, and additionally, so what? Deal with it.
you know, I didn't think rugby would become a point where there's so many crybabies. You understand? Like even the supporters, we're getting soft now. We're getting soft. The game's going soft. The supporters are going soft. You know, you must
Yeah.
go and watch. What's that thing? Tiddlywinks. What did Tano Umaga say? You must go watch Tiddlywinks, man. You know, they're getting soft, man. Come on.
Additionally,
But anyway,
let's move on. The other one I want to touch on, I just want to ask you the question.
yeah.
Jake White, night before the game, he invites Sean Everett over for a braai. He says, Jake made some chops. His wife made a lovely salad. Where I just want to ask you, where do you fall on socializing with the opposition before a game?
Yeah, look, I don't know so much about before the game, eh? Like maybe after the game. Because
Yeah.
now before the game, it's all suspect because now it's awkward. We're sitting there, we're trying to pretend like we're not talking about work, but we're talking about work. You know, I'm trying to
Mm,
find something. No, I'm not nothing wrong with it, but I'm not an advocate for it for maybe after the game, yes, because it can raise eyebrows and make it look like
mm,
there's other things going on where it shouldn't be. You know what I mean? So I know. But hey, look, it worked for Jake, but I don't think there's gonna
yeah.
be any prize this weekend.
He's not hosting Plum. He's not
No, he's not hosting club this
the
weekend.
lovely salad
No,
his wife made, the chops, the
no,
ribs.
no. Club's not getting that dish this weekend.
And additionally, before we go into the detailed analysis of the games,
No.
Glasgow, do you have them to win? Do you have Leinster winning?
Whew.
Are one of our sides going over, or are they coming to us?
Um, let's go to win. Let's go to win. And they're going to come to for a rectification of what happened. Whether it's going to be the Sharks or the Bulls, but let's go to
So
win.
we need our restitution. We need our
Yeah,
restitution for what happened.
let's go to win, Connors. I'm saying, that's what I would like to
Yeah,
see happening. Um, yeah, but I think just the way that they've also been able to, find their way back. Obviously, some
yeah,
players coming back and at the right time,
yeah.
they
Two
get the
below
job.
two.
So yeah, he's big there. He's big for them. But I think he can be handled. But I still think, yeah, let's go to win. There's too much. Yeah, let's go to win. We don't want. Let's put the Irish aside for one moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go to win.
I think I'm actually on your side there. I think Glasgow have enough to do it. The quality side,
Yeah,
I mean, we'll get into it, but I just think that they can do a thing, and also it's that
yeah,
thing of it's their title to lose, and I think sometimes we
yes,
underestimate that. But
yeah.
I
No,
know I certainly did and lost some money. But let's move on. Sharks. I think let's start with Sharks versus Munster because it was the news of the week.
mm,
Boring game for the first
yeah, very
half.
boring.
But
Let's
after
tell the
that,
truth. This is boring.
yeah, but I mean, we expected that Munster will bore you to death, but they'll get in the type of positions and the type of looks that they want, and that's exactly what
Yeah,
they did in the first half. But to start it right from the beginning, it's 100th match
mm,
Centurion. We've got Jaden Hendrikse starting at 10, Masuku
yes.
injured, which, hey, imagine he had been called on to do a kick. So let's
Hey,
just it was a good situation for all involved. But
it worked out.
Sharks, yeah, if we can just get into points in this game, first half, Sharks were nowhere in the first 30,
Yeah,
and then kind of like between 30 and 40 minutes, they kind of like started going little bit
yeah,
behind 7-0 at halftime. For me, in the first half, you could see the scrum, they had the upper hand.
Yes.
But besides that, you could see they were defending too narrow. If you look at the first try, before that kick got put through, the center got on the outside of Hendrikse. And
Yeah.
I mean, Hendrikse was defending at 13. I saw at certain times he was defending at 13, and it was very narrow. They got on
Yeah.
the outside, and then they put that kick behind Mapimpi,
Yeah.
and that was the first
Yeah.
try.
Yeah. And I think even then it was just it just looked like so much lapses of concentration, because even Mapimpi and Fasi, they just looked sluggish early on. It just you could, especially that first try, it's almost
Yeah,
like just like something out of nothing for Munster. But at the same time, I'd argue that to the way that the Sharks have been going, it's just whatever it is that they somehow it is working for them, But I think it's more comes down more to the individuals really
yeah,
that are you know putting in efforts. I think Chituka was a big had a big game.
yeah,
Yes, there was some. I think the subtle changes that you saw is that he was
yeah,
being more the primary ball carrier for the Sharks, that they were using him, and yeah, he was more on the ball. And I mean, we saw that even with that Ethan Hooker try that
yeah.
he
He got
scored.
his
So I
hands
think he
free.
was
He was
big.
the spark essentially in the
Yeah,
second half. And on that, sorry, it's just to say that a lot of these guys in real time look like they had bad games
yeah,
because they dropped the ball,
mm,
handling errors. It tends to stick in your mind when a player makes that kind of mistake. But for me, looking back at it, Chituka had a shift. He had a great game. He
yes,
did have handling errors, but at the same time, he was the spark that got Ethan Hooker over. And then other
yeah.
times, he was just there working, working, working.
Yeah, yeah, he was there working, and I think just as a collective, I think really when they started focusing more on just doing the job and stop, trying to get in, talking to the ref, and I think
Yeah,
even with there's a lot of things that you can look at and say, okay, you know, if the Sharks, yes, Hendricks at the end there, in terms of the kicks when it was a penalty shootout, it worked out. But when you look at that game, you look at it again, there's so many opportunities there that the Sharks, all you need is just let's just play the ball, play the game, stop trying to milk penalties. Sometimes it's just a matter of
mm,
understanding when to do things and when not to do things because I don't think that game should have gone all the way to the extra time and all those things. I
yeah,
actually believe that on the balance of it, looking at it, yes, Munster had a good first half, and yes, Munster always going to stay in the fight. But I believe the Sharks had a better overall game. When you look at it
yeah,
as a whole package, when you look at it with the second half as well, when they got things going and they got themselves in the position where they should have actually put that game away in the 80. Um, but yeah, it's those things, and like I'm echoing what you're saying that when you look at it, you say, no, a lot of these guys had a bad game, but it was actually, I think it was solid enough overall, for them to get the result. And it's things. What's irritating though about the Sharks is that it's all things that can be fixed,
yeah.
and it's the lapses in concentration. But then you get guys that come off the bench and then they come and they deliver. Kuno, I think, that was one of his better off the game
The
off the
three
bench.
guys, the three guys
The
off the bench
three,
for me,
yeah,
Nkulu, Fezo, and Pepsi. Those were the three that, especially deeper into like extra time now, you're
yeah,
seeing Pepsi with big carries. Pepsi as well. I mean, it's not just about the carries. There's certain times where I'm seeing him like going over in the ruck, securing the ball, you
yeah,
know, at the back of the scrum also, controlling the
yeah,
ball. At one time,
yeah.
it could have even been a penalty try when he
Yeah,
was
look,
controlling at the back. I
but
mean,
you
they
see,
got the
that's
try
it.
after that. They got the try after that,
Yeah,
but it's just good work on his part. Nkunu, big carries, the scrum. Henry Jacobs
yeah,
also in the
yeah.
scrum. Fez, he went over for
Fairs.
the try. His impact,
Uh,
like you say, those three guys were big in the later stages.
yeah, and they were big in the later stages, and I think like even, I mean, when you look at it, even my pimpy, yes, I think he was just caught cold,
He
that
was
try,
caught
but
cold twice, but he had a
yeah.
great game.
But he had a great game. Yes, I have to agree with you there. He was good cook twice, but he did have a good game, and he showed he was one of the bright spots. I think Fasi he's not quite there yet.
Yeah,
From form
he
wise,
looks
he's a
like
bit
he's
iffy.
doing a lot, but he's not really doing anything.
yeah, it's not
The only
yielding
thing, yeah,
the
the only thing I will say is he was good under the high ball. But
yeah,
actually, Mapimpi was good under the high ball and hooker and Fassi. When it
yeah.
came to that, when it came to the Munster had a very good kicking game. And like you saw for the first try, they found space. The kicking game
Mm,
was good, but when they put those high bombs, the back three dealt with it. So in that respect, they
yeah,
did.
they did. And you know what? You mentioned Ethan Hooker. I think we've seen it throughout the season with the Sharks. The youngsters, the youngsters. All I know is that they need to measure him. He looks like he might be 2XL. So they must just get the right measurements, and because he's gonna go for
Yeah,
even when he's not playing his best rugby, he's still good, and that's a
yeah,
very very good sign. And yeah, he's just been absolutely amazing for the Sharks. He's a key part in why they're able to be where they are right now. And like I said last week, Quarters, anything can happen. There's a funny thing
yeah,
about when it gets to knockouts, is anything can happen. And we saw something different this past weekend with the penalty shootout, which shouldn't have been, in my opinion. So there's a
yeah,
lot where the Sharks can definitely, I don't know if I can say improve because, but there's a lot where you can see that there's things that they can do and fix themselves. But yeah, still a lot of rugby to be played, and the Bulls, and it's not going to be easy, but we'll talk about that.
yeah. For me, just other points in this game, going into extra time. There was a time where they could have gone for a penalty. They went for the line.
Yeah,
Again, I don't know. Again, they went for a drop goal. They could have just played for the penalty. Again, I don't
yeah.
know. It worked out. And then obviously, the last man on the pitch, everybody else had been brought on. But Bradley
Mm.
David stepped on. He's got a
Yeah, no,
strong hairline, and his BMT is even bigger. And he's one of those guys where we've seen throughout the season in that
yes.
for me, he plays like he doesn't care. That guy
Yeah,
plays like even the kicks, whatever, it's like,
he's playing the game.
pressure situations, it's like he doesn't care. That guy is playing behind two Springboks. He doesn't care. Other people would be worried about, no, my game time or whatever. When that guy comes on, even in Europe, they tend to give him more minutes. That guy was
Yeah.
playing better than Hendrikse for parts of the season. And he directs
Yes.
play in the same, like, he directs play similarly to Hendrikse, but
Yeah.
he's got his own style and he's got his own,
Yeah.
like, he's a bit faster. He does
And
his
it's
own
got
thing.
tempo.
Yeah,
I wanted to say that is that for me, actually, I watching that in the second half, there's a point where I thought, look, it's time to bring Davids on because I really believe the Sharks were starting to get momentum, and there was a lot. They were
yeah,
creating those opportunities where it just needed a guy that's going to come and put some speed on the ball. Instead of the WhatsApp status passes that are
yeah,
being intercepted and things like that. Because yes, don't get me wrong, Jaden Hendrikse, yeah, he's a good player and whatnot, but right now his form hasn't been the best. If we're being
mm,
honest, it really hasn't been the best. But he's just getting by. But yeah, look, big shout out to Bradley Davids as well. And also like I said, Ethan Hooker, I think Chituka was big. It's a Beth always,
yeah. The only
he's
one
always
missing
there.
there is Kolisi. Kolisi didn't have a good game, but
Look, even my
yeah, no.
girlfriend
Other
was
people
like,
were
hey,
posting the night before that their car
yeah.
was, driving a Yaris now, but the less said about that, the better.
No, you see, it's the stress. You understand?
Yeah.
Because even my girlfriend was saying that. Listen, I don't know rugby, but the captain he didn't have the best game. And I was like, well, yeah, that's a, that's a good observation. But silently he did his job. I think he was also
Yeah.
impactful. I think we expecting the tries and but it was
Mm.
Chituka's game this time around where the ball was finding him. So yeah, the girl, the Yaris, she must stop. Leave him. He mustn't pay attention to those things. There's a tournament to win right now.
Yeah, my thing, Sharks moving forward, they just have to be careful defending narrow. That's my main thing, and I'd say that's the main thing of concern is that they don't want to get caught out there. But we'll elaborate on the Bulls' strengths. But let's go to the Stormers. Friday Night Lights.
Yeah,
Yeah, for me, no Willems, Sasha at 10, and for me, this is kind of where they got it all wrong in that I didn't like the team. No Zas. no Similani, no Lubbock, no
Mm.
Youngchis, no Dweba in the starting lineup. Some of those guys were even left out of the match 23. And yes, this is a problem that I've said is with the Stormers is that they change too much. Who's the best team?
You were
And we
saying
also
it
have to,
last week. You
yeah,
said it last week.
and we also have to come to the realization that this is not the same Stormers that won the URC. It's not the same
Yeah.
personnel. It's not the
Mm.
same thing. So my thing was you have to roll the dice. You have to be daring. You have to play the Simulanis, the Zas, the you're playing Benjani Loader because he's
Mm.
better under the high ball and it's like more tactical and it's more what. Don't play the guy that's more tactical.
Yeah.
Go all out and say, we're going for this thing.
Yes.
I need my guys that get you out my seat. I need
Mm.
the guys that excite. I need the Similani. You're going for the more tactical routes, the more test match approach. When that's number one, that's not what got you there.
Yes.
Number two, do you really think that going to Glasgow, who also run it back at you, you're now gonna try kick for the corners and do those things? You don't even have a
Yeah.
solid set piece. We saw Hugo Fenter, how many lineouts were leading to tries.
Lineouts. Yeah. Kunyan. But you know what? I think even who is this? One of the things I think that played a big part. I'm going to start from in the back division. I think we saw the lack of composure and how much a guy like Damien Willemse. I think this game underlined just how valuable Damien Willemse is to the Stormers because
Mm,
even when they did have the ball as the back, they had absolutely zero direction. They didn't know what they wanted to do with it. And Star Boy as well, he faltered. This was one of
yeah.
his worst games ever. And what a time to play to have a bad game, And I don't think we're talking about that enough because had it been somebody else, it
Yeah,
was going to be blasted all over. This guy, this, that, and the other, and the other. Fact of the matter is, uh, and like we said, the kid was good up until there's a real situation, and this was a real situation, and unfortunately, he was found wanting to show that there's still some experience that needs to be gained.
yeah,
However, I still maintain Damien Willemse is so big and remember, quarters. I think it was a few weeks ago we spoke about it, and I said, "Hey, listen, if Willemse is there, yes, okay, but if he's not there, hey, I'm not too sure, because it's a big loss." And for me, that was
yeah,
it. And then it starts the knock-on effect. You lose your captain, of which I think he was, whilst he was still on there. I've been really impressed with the way Murat has sort of he started to evolve as a player.
yeah,
And unfortunately now this injury thing I think probably was HIA or but then they lose him, then things just starts going down the drain, and there's nobody there that's taking leadership, taking ownership to
yeah.
try and arrest the situation. It just was a dog show, honestly, for the Stormers. It really was such a disappointment. Honestly, after doing so much to turn it around, and that creaking ship that you saw at the beginning of the season, on Friday night, it was right there. It was like, yeah, no, look, it just never went away. It was just,
That's my thing. You
just
can say like
needed.
yeah, we need to be objective and say like you can because we support other teams, you're gonna get called
Mm,
haters and whatever. But it's like objectively, you look at this team, the outgoings, the incomings, they don't match the player
mm,
personnel. Now Murat is going off. It's not the same team. Now you've
yeah.
got Sasha playing 10. He's scrambling, but he's not really doing anything. For me, Murat was a big loss, but Dan Duplessis goes off. For me, it was almost a
Yes.
positive that Lubbock went in because
Lip-
now
Yes,
they start looking better. But Sasha's
they
still
did.
trying to play like a 10 when it's like, no, we need you to crash. We need you to run
Yeah.
those lines. He's
Yeah.
scrambling, trying to play make. It's just not working. For me,
You
they were
got
very,
Hudson playing 13 as well. Where
yeah.
I don't think it was a game for him to be playing 13.
And that's why I say, just put him on the wing. I know
Mm.
Sinatla had a good game, but it was one of those things where they didn't even know, do we go with Zas and Hartzenberg? Do we go with Loader? And again, you make these decisions, and ultimately they made the wrong decisions. The scrum
Yeah.
kept them in the game, which, I mean, traditionally over the season hasn't been their strong point, but it seemed to be their strong point in this game. But again,
Yeah.
you get the penalty, you can't win the line out. So, and then you get back into the game, the restarts are poor. They conceded one straight after they score. Fenter scored, I think, from a maul. After that,
Yeah.
Lubbock tried to do an up and under to clear. I don't know. I defend the guy, but I can't defend that. They didn't get it back. They score again. And then you've got guys like
Yeah.
Tui Pelotu. Tom Jordan just kept on breaking the line. And
Ah.
that's another thing of
Ah.
the defense. The
Hey.
defense.
Number 10 was it was number 10, no, Tom Jordan. Hey, hey,
Yeah.
hey, hey, hey. Where have you seen a game where the number 10 is just running at guys just like they are not there?
Yeah.
He was having a field day. There was no defense at all, which is it's really and and I must say this quarters, I didn't like the body language of the head coach, throughout the whole game.
Yeah.
The facial expression and whatnot, because it's like he was defeated already. You understand
Mm.
what I'm saying? He was defeated already, and that was his own auras that he mixed. You know what I mean? It was defeated, quarters. No, no, no. So
Yeah.
there's so many factors, and like you say, you win the penalty, you can't convert, in terms of the lineout. You're not going to win games like that. You're not going to. It's just not going to happen. And they got found out. They got found out really
Yeah.
bad, um,
And my
especially
thing
in the
is,
same.
even for how bad they were, the game was still there.
Still there. That's the funny thing.
And then
That's
the
the
thing is, and then you're against the champions. But anyway, if we have to go, I mean, for me, for this team, it was just the restarts, poor
yeah.
exits, missed lineouts. Sasha, he didn't have a good game. Ruiz
He
didn't
was
have a good
poor.
game.
Uh,
The tackling, the
Wait,
lineouts.
sorry, Russ, we're forgetting. Let's not talk. Look. I'm not trying to get on a bandwagon or anything like that, But for me, I found it very concerning that, in a game like this, I would have thought, T was about to, because it
Yeah,
was somewhat open as well. It was a game that would have allowed for him to impose himself and, to say, okay, fine, the backs, you guys aren't doing it. Let me do it. And there's just nobody for the Stormers, man, that was
mm.
just willing to be like, yeah, follow me, into this thing. And yeah, just disappointing, like I say.
Yeah. Moving
And I
along to
almost
the
put money,
Bulls.
eh? I saw it was
Me, I
2.9.
put money. I put
It
money.
was
I was looking
2.9,
at
the
some.
odds. I was like, I no.
You know what I did? I waited for them to be losing little, but then it went up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at big money. But anyway, let's move on. We're going to Edinburgh, sorry. Bulls
Yeah.
Edinburgh. They've played twice this season. One won by 6, one lost by 6. This one for me
Mm,
now, Bulls at home. 14 jersey retired in honor of Cornell Hendricks. And Edinburgh came out and they came out
mm,
firing.
mm.
But to me, it was a false image. It wasn't the truth. It was a lie. Because to me, the Bulls were always
Yeah.
gonna come back, even when they were down, even when you've got Edinburgh hitting back. And yes,
Yeah.
I think it was De Klerk got the yellow card. They scored two in that time, and again, it was all from set piece. Because what they do is Edinburgh, we know they're a very good running team.
Yes.
Set piece, got good running lines. All they need is go forward off the top, then they can get behind you and they can score. And that's what they did 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
So they capitalized in that way. But in the same way, the Bulls, for me, it was never in doubt. Because once the Bulls get their own set piece, you know how dominant they are at scrum time. And
Yes.
then for me, the biggest thing in this game was their transition play. Running it back. Willie LaRue running it back and finding those gaps. That's a part of their game that we typically haven't seen. Because if you look at these tries that they score, it's set piece transition, set piece transition. It's these
Yeah.
guys kick it back, we run it. Uh, what's his name? Johannes even found gaps. Willie LaRue
Yeah.
found gaps. If it's not that, then it's just the forwards doing a set piece thing where even the set piece can break down. They'll
Yeah.
still find a way. Like Hanekom's the first try, it was supposed to be a maul, it broke down, but Hanekom still does something to score.
Yeah, I was about to say, the sheriff has been missing, but the deputy's in town, and
Mm.
the deputy's been doing the job. I think he was big, and you've been saying Bulls will go as far as how far Hanacom and Moody can take them, and to some extent even the room. But yeah, definitely, I think at home, yes, besides the Edinburgh start, Bulls were always gonna they're always going to pull themselves
Yeah.
together, and just start focusing on their basics, because obviously, Bulls are always going to have a strong set piece, strong scrum, strong lineouts, and it's just a matter of them just getting the execution right, and they did that, and also not giving cheap possession away, as well. I think really that's also what sort of kept Edinburgh in the hunt. Maybe it was in a gentleman's agreement over Bry, uh, we don't know to say no. Let's make this game exciting. You know what I mean? We don't know because you see now the Brian opens up these kind of
These
conversations. But
conversations.
yeah, but I think from there, and then like you see like Moody, I think Johannes was good. I think Johannes was really good. Um, Papir initially, shaky start, but then he started just taking more and more control of it,
For
and
me, sorry, Papier is going to be a big one for me in that they pressurized him and
mm,
he's not the best at box kicking in particular. And they did pressurize him and they did find him wanting in particular aspects. So that's something that the Sharks can pinpoint in that he's not good when it comes to kicking off the base. It's a
yeah,
limitation that he has. They cover it up with his other play throughout the game. Great,
brilliant.
whatever. But if you put him under pressure, because they charge down a few of his kicks, others they don't go as far as a Springbok scrum half should. So that's
Mm,
that's that's one way potentially the Bulls
yeah.
can be found out. But besides that, I mean, he had a good game. LaRue had a good game. I can't,
Mm.
everybody here, as soon as they
I think they did
decided
their
to
job.
dig in, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, they did their job. As soon as, like, exactly that. As soon as they decided to dig in and say, okay, freaking focus on what you got to do. And then they
mm,
got the job done. So it's really, it's nothing more to it other than that the fact that, it's going to be a tricky one, the semi against the Sharks. But I'm a Sharks supporter now. But I'll say this is yes, anything can happen. But
yeah,
Bulls at Loftus, and for the mere fact that the Sharks have been the bogey team for the Bulls. You know how life is. You lose, you lose, you lose, and then you get the win. You understand? So I kind of
yeah.
feel like it's going in that direction. But with God's team, hey, you never know, bro.
Lazarus, they're always coming back from the dead, the Sharks. But for me, in the game, I mean, like I said, Papier, if they look at other things to target, is that Edinburgh, 22 entries, they capitalized. South African teams,
Yeah.
we tend not to do that. So
Mm,
if they can
mm.
try and replicate that, and conversely, the Sharks, they got joy when they started getting front football in the later
Yes.
stages of the game. If they can try and get that football, you know, at Loftus, then they can do something. So for me, it's
Yeah.
like because that's when it started working for them. Is when
Mm,
as the Hazen crashes, then we play, or somehow they get behind. So if they can get that front football, if they can pressurize Papier, if they can limit the set piece of the Bulls, because
yeah, that
you
bull
know
scrum, eh?
Bulls every time they get a
And
set
line out.
piece, it's I mean the scrums, the Sharks did well this weekend, but now we're gonna see the
When I
real
see where
thing.
they are. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, for sure. But obviously, I think the Sharks, because you got the box in there, you know,
yeah,
you're gonna have the box in there, so I think it'll be a very, very, geez, it's gonna be tightly contested. I think
yeah.
the way it's gonna come in is gonna be now with the bench guys. That's where it's gonna be, I think, and then, like you say, the set piece, I think lineup
Yeah, so
time.
you got to limit your
It's
penalties. You got to limit your
yeah, got
penalties.
discipline has got to be up there. Don't give them the opportunity, and really, I think it's really going to be about possession. Try and
Mm.
keep the ball as much from the Bulls because the Bulls, like we saw this weekend, they can hit you with that transition, and they can also hit you with some good set plays as well. Of which unfortunately at the moment we're not seeing with the Sharks. All we've got is the bomb. Is the bomb and the
Hey, the Sharks not well coached, if we're being
is the
honest. It's
bomb
just
and we've got the bashing it up, to try and generate that momentum, and it only seems like, but it starts working later on in the game. But Now it's another South African team that like this thing as well. So, it's
Mm.
Transvaal, my man. So it's gonna, that's why I say
It's Northern Transvaal.
Northern Transvaal. But that's why I say, yes, I'm a Shark supporter. And look, I really, anything can happen. But just the way that things have been, because of the results, it's
Yeah.
almost like now the Bulls are due their win now,
Yeah. Can't
So
be 3 in a row.
yeah, it'll be a big one if they do. But then it'll be even tougher to yeah. I I don't even want to put my head on the block in this one, but you know what? Sharks, go. Let's go. Let's
Closing
go.
remarks. Closing remarks.
No, no, let's go, Sharks. Let's go. And never mind. Let's just take this thing. That's the only way we
Yeah.
can redeem ourselves. You know?
Yeah, for me, they've been called God's team on this podcast before.
Yeah.
So we'll see if they
No,
can do it again.
we're living on a prayer. They'll be playing it at
But
the stadium.
my
So
thing, the Sharks are funny in the way that first 20 someone will get a red card for the Bulls. Then but
that's what I'm
anyway,
saying. I don't know.
that's all we need. That's all we need.
Living on a prayer. Living on a prayer. Let's shut the Northern Transvaal down.
That's it from us, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.
And wink at them. Don't forget.